Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary. Tonight, I have a kind of like a blind tasting, I guess you'd call it. Now, I might have planned this a little bit bad. For some reason, I thought that the mash and drum was like an hour long. Seems like he's still going. So, I get it. I think over time, more and more people come in. But that's fine. You guys are here, and let's do this. So I have 3 new bottles that I got from a company called Infuse, although they're now calling themselves Broken Barrel Whiskey. They call themselves an infusery, which is obviously different than a distillery, and didn't bother doing as much research as I will probably do for my formal video on this. I have never heard of an infusery before, but the intent of the word is that they take whiskey that they don't make, and then they take some staves of some form and essentially flavor the whiskey using the staves. Think about the way that Maker's Mark, the Private Select, or is that what it's called? Private Select? I have a bottle of it. The Maker's Mark one, where you can put different staves in there and kind of influence the flavor. So that's basically what's going on here. So I have 3 different ones. I kind of wanted to do a blind tasting tonight. These are all still totally sealed, but I thought I would just kind of do this on stream for the first time. So I have 3 different ones I'd like to start with, and I have a general idea what I'd like to do. So let me tell you a little bit about these bottles. The first one here, this is the Broken Barrel Whiskey Limited Edition, and yes, I'm going to totally end up reading off the bottle. I don't have all of this memorized yet. This is a limited edition Mizunara, and it's a collection of American whiskey finished with Japanese Mizunara oak staves. And what they do, they actually say here, there's a 4-year-old Indiana corn whiskey and 5-year-old Kentucky corn whiskey, and then finished with this. You got a Maker's Mark store pick with staves. I liked it. Yeah, perfect. Exactly. Hi, by the way, Ron. Nice to see you. So the next one I have here is the Broken Barrel Whiskey. This is a same kind of idea, although in this case it is very hard to read. 12-year-old whiskey fortified with 5-year-old Kentucky corn whiskey. And this is influenced by a cask of Amontillado. Amontillado. Of course, I practiced that before the stream started, and I totally failed. Which is a type of sherry. Next, and kind of the one that I'm a little excited about, those of you who watch this a lot. Oh, geez. Stupid Nightbot. Man, get out of here. All right, I got to turn off Nightbot one of these days. I'm sorry about that. Anyway, so the next one is Broken Barrel Whiskey. This is the Isle of Peat. And it's the same kind of idea, American whiskey finished with Islay Scotch barrel staves. And in this case, it's wheat and single malt whiskeys aged a minimum of 1 year. So they're leaning pretty heavily on the peaty influence here. So I'm pretty interested in what all 3 of these taste like. So you guys get to find out with me. So without further ado, don't mind if this noise is pretty rough. I have no idea how bad this will be on the mic here. But let's go ahead and open this up. Thought about opening them beforehand, but I don't know. Something about opening them on camera seemed appropriate. I'd like to do something more like this. Like I know It's Bourbon Night does the uncorking videos. I like the idea of doing it on a live stream, although my notes are not going to be very good. I'm not... Ooh, that sounded good. Probably shouldn't talk over the pop. Ooh, that smells really, really good. So this is a chunk of Mizunara oak. And I thought it was very cool. When I talked to the guys that sent me these bottles, I actually said to them, I would like you to not only send the bottles, but could you send some of the actual staves that you're using? Because I think it'd just make a cool visual. And I've personally never held Mizunara oak in my hand. So I thought that was just a very cool thing to see. And as you probably know with Mizunara, is it's very light and it's very porous, or not porous. It's very, I guess that you'd almost consider it delicate, right? So they always talk about how you can kind of imprint it with your thumbnail, and I can see for a fact I can do exactly that. So very interesting. All right, so let's go ahead, and I did smell this as soon as I popped it open. Let's go ahead and give this a nose. For those of you just joining, this is an infused whiskey, meaning infused for this one in particular. And you guys are going to hear me repeat myself a couple times just as people roll in here. So this is a Indiana corn whiskey, 4 years old, and 5-year-old Kentucky corn whiskey. But then they throw some Mizunara staves. All right, let's go ahead and give this a nose. It's a little bit reminiscent of a very sweet, almost an Irish whiskey. But when I say Irish whiskey, I'm going to more just go that one step further and say it's got the smoothness of something that was triple distilled on the nose. It does seem to have an influence of the Mizunara in there, which is very cool. And I've tried two. I've tried the Chivas Regal Mizunara, which, Chivas Regal, but still okay. And more importantly, or more, I guess, impressively, the Mizunara from Glendalough. Much, much better. And one of my favorite whiskeys that I've tried to date was that 13-year Mizunara from Glendalough. All right, let's go ahead and, yeah, it definitely was cool of them to send me the wood. I'll tell you guys about that in a minute. But all right, let's go ahead and take a taste of this because it's been a long day for me. I'd like to have a drink. Cheers, guys. Very different than I was expecting. So when I think, I believe this was 2 different types of corn whiskey, right? Yep, Indiana corn and Old Kentucky corn. So when you think of pretty much just a corn whiskey, 100 proof, by the way, when you think of just a corn whiskey, you're going to think something very sweet, right? And almost sweet. I mean, that's all corn whiskey. So, I mean, it's supposedly going to be very sweet, and it is. However, there's more body to this. Almost like if you were to take, I'm trying to think, like the influence I'm trying to put out there is that it's got a heavier body from the wood, but it's not oaky per se. It's almost more just gives it more of a substantial taste to it. Very different than what the nose is. If you smell this, as I mentioned, it's very delicate and it's kind of like sweet, but I was expecting to try this and have it taste like, sticker on my finger. I was expecting this to taste more like, let me see, what's a good comparison? Almost like, if you think about the way that, like, what is it? I have the bottle back there. I'm trying to think. It's orange. 10-year-old is like the big one. Oh my gosh. The heck is it called? Oh my gosh. I can't even think about it. Glenmorangie. Glenmorangie. Sorry. So if you think about the way like a Glenmorangie 10 tastes, that's what I was expecting. And then when I taste this, it's much heavier. So let me try again. Really, it's a little fierce is wrong, but it's good though. Like it's it's very hard describing this on camera, like as a first taste. It's part of the reason I don't do these kind of things all the time. But I'm thinking the best way to describe this would be, it is smacking me in the mouth in a way that I did not expect from a Mizunara cask. And that's very surprising to me. Anyway, so here's a question for you guys. Has anybody tried anything from Broken Barrel? They've been doing things for a little while. Different infused vodkas, infused gins, and even infused whiskeys. They were under another name, infused spirits or infused spirits. So it's very possible that you guys have tried it in the past. However, all right. So I'm going to give that a couple minutes to mellow out here. Excuse me. I'm actually going to put that right on top of the Mizunara cask, piece of wood here. And I'm going to move on to the Amontillado. So the Amontillado is a sherry cask finish. As you can tell, the color here compared to this, that's obviously a sherry influence. It's very dark. Actually, even the Mizunara is pretty dark. It's interesting. Now, for those of you that happen to go to the Bastard's Ball, there was a company called East of Eden, I think is what it's called. Something, Something Eden. I'm pretty sure it was east of Eden. Sorry, give me a sec. I'll open this and try not to talk over the... Whoa. Shot that thing across the kitchen. All right, so in the future, I will probably open these off camera. I just kind of thought it would be good to prove to you guys I haven't had any, but you know what? If you look at the bottle, you can see that none's gone. So rather than doing this on camera, I will do it different next time. But first time doing this, may as well learn. Very good. All right, so Amontillado is not a sherry that I'm very familiar with. I would guess at some point in my life I've probably had a whiskey that was finished in an Amontillado sherry cask. However, I am not aware of it. All right. So, this, I'm just watching the playback. It's about 30 seconds behind, and I just saw how much flair I put into opening of that bottle. Silly. All right, anyway, so this is a piece of the wood from the Amontillado cask, and this is dense. This thing weighs like a pound, maybe more, probably a couple pounds actually. And just interesting to see the different types of wood. It's not something that I've spent a whole lot of time with. It's still dirty, actually, which is kind of cool. Now, it's worth mentioning that these did not go through the finishing process. These are basically just pieces of the barrels that they chose to send me. So just poured a Teeling finished in a rum cask. You know, I saw that one recently. What do you think about that, Rons? Okay, so that has a very heavy sherry influence. Now, interesting thing that I've found as far as whiskeys that have been finished in different barrels, it does not take very long for it to get a lot of character from whatever it's being infused with. It's almost like within a couple of days you've got a good chunk of the influence that you're going to have. So when somebody says that they, aged something in a sherry butt for 2 years, part of me just thinks, why bother? Maybe it wasn't very mellow before it went in there. I'm sure that there was probably a reason that they did it because they do a whole lot of experimentation. But in my hand, hold on, send it to me and I will make you a nice pen. Oh, out of the piece of wood? That'd be kind of cool, actually. But anyway, my guess is that usually it might not be mellow enough if they're leaving it in a sherry butt for that long. Or maybe that's just what they found that they like. So I will say that the color of this, although very dark, it's got kind of that almost like Canadian whiskey color to it, where it's more brown than it is tan. Now I'm trying to think what else I could compare this to, because whiskey, it's brown, right? But it's like almost like a chocolatey brown versus a whiskey brown. Very interesting, actually. So enjoying a Glenlivet 14. Great to see some new whiskey out there. Hey, finally in here. Yeah, I'm glad that you guys are coming over. I feel bad about stepping on Mash and Drum's toes. I did not expect that he was going to go past 10 o'clock. I knew that he was streaming tonight, and I know that often he does go late, but kind of just didn't really think about it. I more just wanted to do my own thing tonight, and I figured he's going on at 9, I'll go on at 10. So anyway, let me go ahead and give this a nose. So normally when you nose a sherried whiskey, you'll taste or you'll smell fruits. In this case, yes, technically I'm smelling fruits, but it's not things like strawberries and cherries and apples and pears and I don't know, any of the lighter kind of fruits. In this case, these are very dark. This is more like a raisin or a plum coming off of there. So I'm curious actually as to what this says regarding Amontillado. This is a weird label. I'm going to have to make sure I show off this label when I do a review of this. So it says, Amontillado, I have my doubts, lying dormant in a crypt, thought never to get out. The text here is very hard to read. Rare Bath whiskey crossed wine so bold. Rare Bath whiskey? Yeah, that's what it says. Rare Bath whiskey crossed wine so bold, 1,000 injuries, dark tales to be told. Okay, so tells me nothing, but it's fine. All right, let's go ahead and taste this. Cheers. Another one that was very different than a nose. That's interesting. I wonder if that's going to be consistent among all of these, and I'm curious to see how the peat's going to do, knowing that peat in general has a very strong nose and taste. So this one is very oily. That's probably the number one thing I would take out of here. Actually, in fact, I can pretty much, I can feel it just very slowly dripping down my throat. Yeah, Ron's, you know what? Actually, send me an email, thewhiskeydick@gmail.com, because that sounds kind of cool. And that actually sounds very cool. I still have to film an episode, but after that, I don't know, why not? That sounds like a cool idea. Shout out to Poe with the poem in the back. I don't know. It didn't sound like Edgar Allan Poe. And if you look at the image, and I know you guys probably can't see that, you got the old, think like Renaissance time with the dude with the plague mask with the big beak. He's there. He's in the crypt. I would guess the like the crypts. What are those called? I think they're just called the crypts, right? Like that place, I forget where in Europe. You guys got to bear with me. I've had a very long day. It was actually part of the reason I'm streaming tonight. I wanted an excuse to drink. And then on the other side, there's like a guy hidden in the wall. I hope that you can see that. Probably not, though. Somebody says that they usually smell figs. I would not say that that's too far off on this. I think I need to smell a fig. Again, it's been quite a while, and I kind of forget what it smells like. But I bet that there's more fig in some of these sherry finishes than I usually think. All right. I don't think I went into the taste, so I'll do another cheers and describe it with you guys. Okay, so George Orwell is saying it's a reference to Poe, the cask of Amontillado. So, okay, looks like I need to do a little bit of research, but that's fine. The intent of these, I called it bottle poppin' just because I've had a song stuck in my head that had that phrase in there. But, I'm not going to call it uncorking. That's its bourbon night thing. So maybe I'll call it bottle poppin'. Who knows? Whatever. Anyway, the intent is not to do so much research on it, just to taste it blind, give you guys my initial impressions before I do my usual due diligence and friggin' studying up on the brand and tasting, and then finally doing my video. It's a very hard life that I lead. I just got another couple bottles of Blanton's, getting closer to that set of stoppers. Cool, Travis. That's a good idea. All right, so let's see. It's really smooth with a citrus nose and a taste that seems peppered cotton candy, but I am not as good as you guys with identifying nose and taste. Ron's, I know you said that what you were tealing. Okay, with the rum. Yeah. You know what, Ron, that's pretty good nosing and tasting notes, especially for the, just kind of jumping into it. So I'd say you're fine. This one, I don't like it as much as the Mizunara, but I definitely don't dislike it. It's just very different. I mean, you're talking Mizunara cask versus another sherry cask. So I keep wanting to try this because it's the only note I'm really getting is how dry and oily it is. It's almost like drinking like a Shiraz. It's probably more like drinking a sherry, but if you think about drinking a Shiraz, just red wine, that peppery kind of drying factor that you get to your tongue, I'm getting a bit of that on here. Yeah, you know what? That's growing on me a bit. I'm going to come back to that one. All right, so that was the sherry finish. Let's go ahead to the pièce de résistance, the peat. I'm totally going to cut myself with these things. There's this weird little bubble on the top that I'm trying to cut through, and I need to get a knife, like a pocket knife. I think I gave up my last pocket knife years and years ago when it broke, and I never replaced it. And now I am a man that only has like what I would take camping with me, which is more of a tool than a knife, if you want to be literal about it. It's got all kinds of funky gizmos. It's not a Swiss Army knife, but it's not just a knife either. Anyway, all right, so let's go ahead and pour out this. Ready? 3, 2, 1. All right. So I'm not smelling the peat yet. Usually when I pop a peat bottle, I can smell it almost immediately, but let's see. Benchmade makes some amazing everyday carry knives. Yeah, I kind of want like an everyday carry kind of knife. There was one I was looking up last night. So I watched Peter McKinnon a lot because he's got good advice on videography. And he's all about the whole everyday carry thing. And he's got this knife that I really like. I looked it up. It was like $130 or something like that, which is totally fine for a nice knife. I just wasn't ready to impulse buy something for $130. Alrighty. So let's go ahead and go for the peat. Ha, there it is. Now this is a different kind of peat. Oh, yes, let me show you this. So this one came in a bag because peat smell obviously is quite strong. Now the cool thing here is I believe they call it alligator char. As I said, I don't think this is going to focus. I have to turn off the autofocus in order to get certain things to not show up on camera. So I'm going to actually check out the replay real quick just to see if you guys can even see this. Excuse me, but the either way, this is an ex-peated. Actually, let's just see if it says. All right, so the American whiskey that goes into here, it's wheat and single malt whiskeys aged a minimum of 1 year, so that's not exactly a long time, but they're leaning pretty heavy on the peat, so that's fine. I'm not going to judge. Finished with Islay Scotch barrel staves. Let's see. Anything on here? You know what, though? I have another document. If you guys bear with me for just a moment, I can actually give you a little bit more information about this, which I think would be worth it. So, infuse. While I'm doing this, you guys should, by all means, check out the new Whiskey Dictionary. It's, I realize I've talked about it a bit, but the Whiskey Dictionary, it's a book that I put out. I'm like really, really proud of it. I think it came out great. If you're interested at all, just go to my homepage, check out the playlist on merchandise, and you'll see. All right, so I'm going to give you guys a little bit of information on the peat one, and then I'll actually read back a little bit. So the Isle of Peat is 55% ABV. It's a blend of American wheat and single malt whiskeys married with peated Islay Scotch. Oh, geez, it doesn't give you anything. I might have to ask them where the peat barrels come from, because that's obviously something that we would all like to know. Maybe they're not going to tell me. Maybe they will. We'll see. That one would be a plain Jane. That's okay. Maybe I'll send you all three of them, and you can do whatever you think looks good, Ron. Yeah, I think I have a box that's big enough for all three. All right. Anyway, the peat smell on this, it's more. I'm not sure that I love it, to be honest. It's almost a little funky, you know. It's got like almost a. It's not mildew because it's not off or wrong. It's you can tell it's what they were going for. I'm trying to think of anything else that smells like this. It's definitely not like a Lefroy or an Ardbeg. Not even like a Bowmore, whatever. Not a Kalila. What would this be? They need to invent smell-o-vision, because boy, would that be awesome. Just be like, here, smell this. Yeah. Thanks, Gregor. I appreciate that. Yeah, man, I've all right. Hey, Spencer, what's going on? Is Jason from Mash and Drum? Is he still going? Because I feel bad. I should have waited till 10:30. I haven't used the dictionary yet. Hoping to get to it around Christmas time when I'm supposed to be around. Hey, it's Dustin. What's going on? Hey, Charles. All right, looks like we're getting a bit of a surge of viewers here. Hopefully. All right. I'm not going to be able to give you guys very much on the nose here. There's something there that I just can't put my finger on. All I can say is that it's funky. It's like a mossy kind of funk, but it's not a smoky peat. I really can't think of anything. All right, let's try it. Maybe they'll come to me that way. Cheers. Okay, so he just wrapped up. Oh man, that's weird. All three of these have been very weird. But I mean, that's good, right? Like we don't need the same thing with a slight nuance to it. We need new creative things. Okay, so if I had to describe the taste there, initially it's more sweet than anything, but the funkiness for me personally is overbearing. It finishes with a hint of smoke. It's again not like crazy. Certainly not what you would think from a peated whiskey or something. Remind me where to snag a dictionary. So Gregor, you just basically send me an email. If you look in the description here, it should be there. If not, just send me an email, thewhiskeydick@gmail.com. And yeah, but I'm pretty sure there. Hold on. I don't want to tell you guys the wrong thing. And I'm on a live stream, so, anything goes here. Let's see. Come join the conversation. Like what I do. Want us to... Yep. Want some more day-to-day dictionary. Nope. I need to update my default. Yep. I need to update my default description to include the stuff about the dictionary. What's up, ADHD Fishing? For those of you that don't know, he's got a newer channel. Very entertaining. Worth at least giving a look. So by all means, give it a look. So for those of you just joining, I am currently on the third bottle, and I'll probably go back through them once again now that I've had them all. The idea here is it's a company they were called Infuse Spirits, and now they're called Broken Barrel Whiskey. And they reached out to me, told me that they have this idea, right? And they have this thing that they've been doing for a little while with other things like vodka and some whiskeys. They source whiskey, but it's not just MGP. I suspect it's several different source whiskeys. They mentioned specifically Indiana, so there is MGP in there. But they also say Kentucky, so there's maybe some Heaven Hill, maybe. And then a couple of other ones as well. But they source their whiskey, and they make no attempt to hide that. And they refer to themselves as an infusory, which means that they are taking whatever it is, and they're throwing some of these staves in there. Into the barrel to help it to age and kind of change the flavor, give it some characteristics that they're trying to go for. Think Maker's Mark Private Select, right? Hey, Jason, I'm sorry, buddy. I really thought that you were done at 10 o'clock, so I just aimed to go on at 10 o'clock and then, checked at like 10:05, saw you were still on. I felt a little bad about it. I hope you had a good show, but sorry about that. Anyway, so they infuse their whiskey with these staves. It's a cool concept. When they reached out to me, they originally were just going to send me, I think the Amontillado. And I actually told them, when they told me the three things that they were going to be doing, I said, actually, I'd like all three of them. Is that possible? And they said, yes. And I said, well, since I'm already asking for stuff and you seem amicable, why don't you send me some of the staves that you got as well? So they did. And for those of you that are just joining, let me kind of show these off real quick. So there's three different ones here. There is a whiskey that is, you'd think I would know this by now. I've looked at it like 7 times. 4-year-old Indiana corn whiskey and 5-year-old Kentucky corn whiskey and Mizunara cask. They throw that into the barrel. So that's that one. Then they have the cask of Amontillado, which is some American whiskeys. So you got 12-year-old whiskey fortified with 5-year-old Kentucky corn whiskey, and you put supposedly Amontillado sherry butt stave into there. I did look it up. To my knowledge, I've never had Amontillado sherry, but maybe I have. It's tough to say. I've had a lot of whiskeys. And then there's the third one, which is Peat. Now they do not say where it was from. They don't say which distillery this is from, but it is from aging peat. So anyway, let's see which. Okay. Yeah, that's the peat. Okay. Now I will say, just right off the bat, the Mizunara is kind of the winner here for me. The sherry is second, and the peat just doesn't do it for me. They, for me personally, I think that they missed the mark on what to do with the peat. it just gave it this really weird funkiness to it that I wasn't a fan of. The Mizunara, I think the second that anything touches Mizunara, maybe I'm just a fanboy, but I just freaking love Mizunara casks. So I think that is a good way to go, and I like this one. By the way, slight tangent. For any of you guys who are in the stream now, did you guys happen to watch the Bourbon Blind stream the other night where I turned a bottle of Booker's up and chugged it for much longer than I should have chugged it for? Because boy, was I hurting on Saturday morning. Those of you in the Discord know. Anyway, so this whole night kind of thing of doing some bottle popping, thought it'd be a fun idea. I'll probably do this going forward, but I'm going to have to think of a way to change the format a little bit so it feels a little bit less thrown together. Hey, Richie Z. And I'd like to make it a little bit more like our normal live streams. I just had kind of like a really crappy day, so I wanted to drink on camera, and this was a good enough excuse. All right, so I'm going to go back through all three of them one more time now that they've had a minute to open up, and just kind of see if I have changed my opinion. But for all of you in the chat, I know a lot of you have been drinking already. What are you currently drinking? Great live, yeah. To mash and drum, I feel that's code for more whiskey, and I will follow instructions. I tuned into your stream, Jason, for like a minute just to see if you were still on, and you were talking about nuts or something. You're talking about nutty nuts, and I was like, all right, Jason's talking about nuts again. I will just go do what I want to do away from the nuts. All right, Whistle Pig 10. Now, what do you think of that, Andrew? I did Whistle Pig 10 quite a while ago. I feel, just out of curiosity, have you guys noticed an influx of Whistle Pig advertisements somewhat recently? Everywhere, every store I go to, I feel like it's just bombarded with Whistle Pig. And it makes me wonder if they are doing some sort of a push. All right, let's go with the Amontillado. Yeah. It's just very dry. But it tastes like what it should taste like. It almost doesn't taste like a whiskey, honestly. It tastes more like a red wine. Almost like, what was it called? Hold on. I think it was Amador. There was a whiskey I reviewed a long time ago that was finished in barrels from California. I'm pretty sure it was Amador. I know that it's easy to find because it's when alphabetical. It's one of my first playlists. It was Amador. Yep. So they had the double barrel. Anyway. Yes, I totally did. I popped in. It was just all nuts all day. Even seeing Whistle Pig on TV. That's interesting, Russ. I don't really watch TV, I guess, so that might be why. But I don't remember the last time I saw an alcohol ad on television. I think you're right. It seems to be that there's push more. What barrels are they again in the Whiskey Dick? What barrels are they aging in? That's a great question, actually. I have no idea. I actually have absolutely no idea. They gave me very little information about these bottles. It's the kind of thing that I'm going to have to research and probably ask them, which I need to get on top of because I think I'm going to probably film this episode this weekend. 45 in the chat. Make sure to hit that like button. I concur, William. That being said, even though you guys all kind of popped in here, I don't want to make this thing just drag on. I only really intended on doing a half hour because this is meant to be kind of a short thing. I'm not going to be able to stream on Friday, so I thought that I would pop in and just say hi to you guys. I will, however, maybe find out who's streaming in the future. That way, for those of you that join late, you won't have to miss all the fun. All right, but I'm just going to pop off. you know, I appreciate that you guys are here. I'll be in the Discord for a while. Actually, you know what? I'll do that. If you guys want, I'm going to go to my Discord. You can find a link to it in the description here. I'll go in the voice chat, and we could just chat for a little while. So let's do that. And I guess we'll call it a night. So thank you guys very much for joining me here on the Whiskey Dictionary, and I hope you have a great rest of your night. Cheers.